The recording. It was still going. I hadn't touched my phone, but the screen showed an active audio recording, running for almost 5 minutes now. My heart felt like it was trying to punch its way out of my chest. With a trembling finger, I tapped the stop button. The file saved automatically. The silence that followed was somehow louder and more terrifying than the whisper. I stared at the file name, a jumble of numbers, and the time. 3:05 a.m. I had to know. I couldn't just delete it. This was real. This was happening. My thumb hovered over the play button. I took a deep, shaky breath and pressed it. At first, there was just static, the low hum of the room. My own ragged breathing captured in perfect, unnerving clarity. Then, after about 10 seconds of this ambient noise, I heard it, a whisper. My name. Kofi, but tis time. This time, it was different. It wasn't just a disembodied voice from the corner of my room. I leaned closer to the phone speaker, my ear pressed against the cool glass. The whisper. It was my voice, my own voice, whispering my own name, as if I had spoken it myself in my sleep. But I was awake. I was wide awake. The recording continued, and my recorded voice spoke again, a chilling, single command that echoed in the tiny room. Open the door. My blood ran cold. The door was locked. I always locked it. It was a heavy wooden door with a deadbolt, and I had turned the key myself before getting into bed. No one could get in or out. I looked at the door, the moonlight filtering through the window, barely illuminating the brass knob. It was still. Everything was still. I scrolled through the audio file, my eyes fixed on the waveform animating on the screen, the small spikes of my breathing, the larger, sharper peak of my own voice whispering. It made no sense. How could I have recorded myself saying that? Was I sleepwalking? Sleep-talking? It had to be that. It was the only logical explanation. I was just stressed from exams, my mind playing tricks on me. I tried to calm myself down, my own logic a flimsy shield against the creeping dread. I decided to listen to the end of the recording. Maybe there was something else, something that would explain it all. I dragged the playback marker to the last 30 seconds. More static, more of my own breathing. I was about to turn it off, convinced it was just a strange, stress-induced episode, when another sound came through the speaker. It was faint at first, almost lost in the static. A sound from outside the recording, a sound from outside my room. A low, guttural breathing. Not mine. This was heavy, labored, like someone was standing right on the other side of my door, their mouth pressed against the wood, struggling for air. The recording captured it perfectly. It was a sound I hadn't heard with my own ears, but my phone had. It had heard everything. The recorded breathing continued for a few seconds, a horrible, wet, rasping sound that made the hairs on my arms stand up. Then, silence again on the recording. My heart was a drum against my ribs. I looked from my phone screen to the door, my entire body frozen. The recording ended. The real-time silence in my room was absolute. I was convincing myself I was losing my mind, that I was overtired, that none of this was real. It was a dream, a vivid, horrible nightmare. I would wake up in the morning, the sun would be shining, and this would all be a funny story to tell my friends. You won't believe the dream I had, I'd say, and we would all laugh. Just as that thought brought a sliver of comfort, a sound shattered the quiet. A loud, sharp knock, 3 distinct raps against the solid wood of my door. Knock, knock, K-N-O-C-K. It wasn't a dream. The sound was so sudden, so violent, it felt like a physical blow. Pre-meta jumped bike, dropping my phone onto the bed. It clattered against the mattress, the screen still glowing. My eyes were glued to the door. Who would be knocking at this hour? It was past 3 in the morning. No student would be up. No security guard would be making rounds like this. My breath hitched in my throat. I didn't move. I didn't dare to make a sound. Maybe they would think no one was here. Maybe they would go away. The silence stretched on, thick and heavy with anticipation. A minute passed. Then two. Nothing. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It must have been someone at the wrong door. A drunken mistake. That was Italian. I slowly reached for my phone on the bed, my hand shaking uncontrollably. I needed light. I needed to call someone. My fingers fumbled with the screen. As my gaze fixed back on the door, I saw it. The small, brass doorknob. It was moving. It wasn't a sudden or violent turn. It was slow, excruciatingly, impossibly slow. A tiny, almost imperceptible tremor at first, then a deliberate, steady rotation. To the left, click. The sound of the latch disengaging echoed in the room like a gunshot. The deadbolt was still locked, but the handle had been turned from the outside. My mind screamed. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. The door was locked. I checked it myself, but the knob was fully turned now, held in place as if by an invisible hand. My own recorded voice flashed in my mind. Open the door. It wasn't a command for me. It was a response. I was trapped. I scrambled backward on my bed, pressing myself against the cold wall, my eyes wide with terror, unable to look away from the doorknob. Time seemed to slow down. Every second felt like an hour. I waited for the door to be pushed open, for the deadbolt to snap, for whatever was on the other side to finally reveal itself. The silence was absolute, broken only by the frantic pounding of my own heart. The knob remained turned, a silent, terrifying promise of entry, and I just sat there, waiting in the dark.